Hmm.
Hey, welcome. Whoops. There we go. Cosmic or Mystic? I guess I don't mind answering that because I have said before that my next character is not a repeat class for me. So I think that answers it. Hey, Pi. Hey, Royu. I have certainly seen that assumption a lot, Magnus. Bro. The just standing there and waiting. So rude. Hey, Stink, Black Hole. Alright, I do want to wait for a few people to show up. Excuse me. Not seeing the new deep dive just yet. Somebody wants to let me know when it's live. I'll head back over there. I'm a little mildly confused by that. Why was I ramping precisions into block? Oh, I know why. Because I was turning off Kinetic Instigator and that was causing abilities to fail. Cool, cool, cool. Live? Alright, let me refresh again. Hey, Joey. There we go. Okay. As usual, we gotta turn desktop audio way, 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 way up so that y'all can hear Mike. Let's try this.
What is going on, Summoners? We're back here today with another Champion Deep Dive. Today, we're talking about Ironheart. So, sit back and relax, because it's time to get into it.
Hey, Buzz. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I know you could hear that, but there we go.
Ironheart enters the contest fully armed with repulsors. These inflict repulsor debuffs on her medium attacks for 18 seconds. Triggering the Dexterity Mastery inflicts 2. But this goes on cooldown until her next special attack. Her default repulsor is Incinerate, but she can override this with Rupture on the pre-fight screen. Also, the advanced systems in her custom-made suits allow her to start each fight with an indefinite armor-up buff.
I have a bit of a residual migraine.
It restores itself after 12 seconds. But this timer is paused when suffering from an armor break. Ironheart's first 3 light attacks have a 30% chance to grant an armor-up buff for 15 seconds. Her 4th light attack has a 100% chance. And while she...
By the way, I think Bella's question has basically been answered, but it does tell y'all, for anyone who is wondering, I've already put out the spotlight for her. So there's plenty of context there, but if you have any questions, please ask them, because given that I just recorded all of that yesterday and don't want to necessarily duplicate it here, I'm probably not going to go way into a bunch of things. But if there are any clarifications or things like that, please put them in chat and we'll go over them. Hey, Mon.
If she has any armor-up effect, she gains immunity to Cold Snap, Frostbite, and Incinerate, as well as immunity to reverse controls. Additionally, while benefiting from an armor-up, her personal debuffs and armor-up buffs are unaffected by ability accuracy modification against mutants. Now, while the opponent is suffering from 5 or more non-stun debuffs, Ironheart inflicts a tracking passive, bypassing the effects of miss. Robots and any opponent inflicted with tracking suffer minus 100% offensive ability accuracy when hitting her block. This is increased to 150% against mutant champions. And while tracking is on the opponent, Ironheart can trigger the parry mastery against non-contact attacks, and block mutants' unblockable special attacks. Now, the first hit of her heavy attack inflicts a non-stacking 30% suppression debuff for 15 seconds. And the final hit invalidates 1 prowess off of the opponent, plus 1 more for each repulsor debuff on them. Now, let's check out her special attacks. On all of her special attacks, her repulsor debuffs and armor-ups are paused. Additionally, special attack hits inflict instant versions of the repulsor debuffs, dealing a burst of damage. And on her special 1, the first and final hit inflict 1 repulsor debuff. And the final hit also inflicts a non-stacking 20% vulnerability passive.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking away, so yeah, y'all will have to ask questions. For 8 seconds. With the special 2, each hit gains increased attack rating for each repulsor debuff and armor-up effect. The special 3. At the end of this attack, she instantly power drains up to 2 bars of the opponent's power, and for each bar drained, she gains an indefinite armor-up passive, and inflicts an indefinite repulsor debuff. These indefinite effects max out at 5 stacks. Now, let's check out her signature ability. When awakened, her repulsor debuffs gain up to 20% increased potency. Additionally, While she has any active armor up effect, she gains a bulwark passive, increasing her block proficiency by 25%. And, once per fight, when she drops below 15% health, she gains a regen buff, healing up to 35% of her max health over 10 seconds, and gaining up to 35% crit resistance while it's active. Now, let's see those repulsors in action in the champion rotation.
Thanks, June.
To begin,
Yeah, I would say she's quite simple, Black Hole. There are things to weave in, but the basics are very, very simple. The Cap Sam stuff is definitely intentional. The same designer built both Sam and Onslaught, and between him and myself, many of you may know that I am a fan of Sam. We were explicitly pushing for the, like, hey, ability accuracy stuff into block is cool, we need more of it. And so here you go. Yeah, I think she's quite good. It's a unique mix, right? It is... One thing I can say outside the spotlight that I already put out is that I've already seen a few people talk about they're not entirely sure where you would use her. And I completely understand where that's coming from, because she doesn't fit exactly into the boxes that, like, Lady Deathstrike or Omega Sentinel or Nimrod or Iron Man fit. But she has a little bit in common with all of them, right? And so between all of those little pieces of utility she has, I'm pretty confident that she's going to find a spot that's just for her. Because her unique combination is going to be valuable.
strike the opponent to build up your repulsors and armor ups. Use the Dexterity Mastery to stack on 2 additional repulsors, and once you reach 5, you can parry the opponent's non-contact attacks. From here, build to just under your Special 2, and launch your...
Important to note, he said you can parry the non-contact attacks and showed that off against Onslaught. He was also showing off the reduction in ability accuracy through block, because normally when you parry Onslaught with somebody else who can do that, you get a Daunted on yourself, and she didn't. So just calling that.
Your Special 1 to pause your debuffs and inflict a vulnerability passive. Then, rush back up to your Special 2 before the vulnerability expires and watch the big yellow numbers fly across the screen. Now, in a shorter fight, you could focus on your medium attacks to stack up as many repulsors as possible. And keep in mind, your heavy invalidates prowess off of the opponent. So, if necessary, use that to your advantage as you rush to Special 2 and finish up quick. And hey, if you need some extra juice, just keep launching that Special 1 so you hit the cap on those repulsor debuffs, and then unleash a wicked Special 2 that can obliterate the opponent right before your eyes.
Hey, Matt. Happy Saturday.
Thank you for watching this champion.
That's really about it for Ironheart. Some of y'all may have noticed it's a relatively short spotlight with context from me as well. And it's not because she doesn't have a lot to offer, like we talked about. It's just very simple. She's built around her debuffs and her armor ups, and basically all of her utility is tied to one, the other, or the tracking passive that she gets from getting to 5 debuffs. Yeah, she's very clean. I can understand that from a utility perspective, Fel. There are definitely some things that she can do that Sam can't, like the prowess control. And bluntly, she does modern amounts of damage, whereas Sam does not. Ah, poor Sam. Someday. Nice, Matt. Yeah, she's quite good. Like I said, all of those white-up transitions are really getting to me, so I'm probably going to go ahead and close this down and go back to playing, but please, if anyone has any questions, wants to talk about Ironheart, Go for it. I'll be here. I'm okay, Jason. I'm pretty sure I got a migraine yesterday for the first time in quite a while. Which is not super fun. And I'm still feeling it a little bit today, but I feel better. They used to go over synergies in Spotlight. Did that get changed? Yeah, it was changed on purpose. Basically, it's a lot of work, like a lot of extra work for Mike to go find and record all of the places where those synergies come into play. Like it's not just him reading over them, right? For the purpose, I can do that in my spotlights, but for the purposes of his deep dives, he basically needs to show them off in real fights. And so that's a lot of extra work, and the response to a lot of the synergies was just people who couldn't imagine why they weren't Cable plus APOC. And so a lot of work for when this synergy is boring is not really something that anybody was interested in month after month, unfortunately. Why on earth should she have that, Viraj? What makes you think she's even supposed to be a perfect onslaught counter? Yeah, but why does she need to do that? Onslaught just came out. She counters several other parts of his kit. What makes you think that she needs more targeted just at him? Thanks, Matt. Yeah, it went live right as the deep dive did. And I'm trying to get the dust one done tonight so it'll be ready, but that does kind of depend on whether my headache comes back. I'm sorry you're also feeling bad, Aiden. How do you deal with them at work if you're having to look at screens all day? You don't. Oh man, my capture card flipped out. I thought that maybe I had solved this. There was a power setting that I changed that I hoped would prevent this, but I guess we just have to wait for it to fail. I'll cut out here in a second. This is so annoying. My computer really is not that old. Yeah, but I don't really deal with them if I do get them. This is the first one Yeah, we should be back. Yeah, I don't really deal with them. I took like 4 or 5 hours out of my workday yesterday to get better, and I got a little bit of work in. And I know, it's not pressing, but I would like to have it out. I've been behind in previous months, or in recent months. Oh god, what now, Scion? That's not aimed at you. This is just a somewhat regular occurrence, and I thought I got this one. No! How did I do that twice? This shows you how off I was yesterday. Literally, I typed Spotlight, Champion Spotlight with context into my thumbnail and then fixed it and downloaded it. And somehow I also did that on YouTube separately. Mind blowing that I made the same mistake twice. Alright, thanks for shouting that out. Should be fixed now. Ugh. So annoying. Weird passive duck. Whoa. You think Dust will be one of those underrated champs coming out of the gate? We'll see. If I had to pick one that would get underrated, I would have thought it might have been Ironheart, honestly. Dust has some very cinematic cash outs, as we will see tomorrow. Take everything with a grain of salt, Matt. I'm not specifically talking about March here, but I've seen a lot of extremely confident predictions about the next few months that are not correct. So don't get too married to anything, is my advice. Oof. I'm sorry to hear that, Aiden. I had a not quite that, but like recovering from my migraine, I had black tea later in the day since caffeine helps, and it did help, but it also kept me up later than I intended. I sat there for like 40 minutes trying to fall asleep, picked up my phone, read a few chapters of a book, and then went to sleep. Yeah, I can understand how at least a couple people's brains also skipped over the title and corrected it the way I did, but it's just funny that I made the same mistake twice in about 5 minutes. Is Dust similar to Toad in the sense she doesn't do exceptionally well outside the class wheel? I feel comfortable saying no to that ahead of time. Dust is more flexible outside of skill than Toad is. Excuse me. Hey, Travis, welcome. Such a tease. Some of y'all may have seen Kabam Mike respond to JX on Twitter, but so I'm comfortable saying it here. The hex grid this month or this year was not set up with connections in mind. That was kind of an oversight in the workflow. It was delegated to a relatively new employee who didn't know that that was a thing we did. It'll go back to normal next year. But basically the point there is a lot of those hex grid predictions and even the predictions after the live stream yesterday were done with the assumption that the hex grid meant something. So just remember that as people then take another look at it over the next 24 hours. And even then, they will probably make some mistakes, right? You gotta watch that stuff. She's so rude on kinetic transference with the double medium. Whew, I'm glad I didn't try and go in there for an unblockable opening. Both because I wasn't unblockable and because of that surprise special, too. I am a little bit sorry for making you spiralated. I'm also very amused that it both can fit the common guess and not. Yeah, I hear that, John. When the grid first came out, I was looking over it and I was like, huh? And I know everyone who's coming this year. That's fine. That is a weird way to ask that question, JJ, and I think you know. I don't know. It's certainly possible. I've gone up there for an average of about 2 weeks a year. And thus far, it hasn't lined up with a live stream, but that doesn't mean that it won't ever. And now that I did the whole face reveal at the brawl, there's not really much of a reason not to. Oh, I know what you mean. I like those kinds of connections either way, Aiden. Hey, Dane. Yeah, you did this time, although you can watch back if you want. It's a pretty simple deep dive, and I've already recorded the spotlight, so there wasn't, excuse me, a whole lot that stuck out to me to say. But there were a few things, and if you have any questions about her, I'm happy to answer. Wait, was I supposed to go to Domino first? No, okay, Absorbing Man is next. My loose memory did not betray me. Yeah, I should have waited until longer into the... Jesus. The exact same decks just dropped block this time. I don't even know if we can change that in the code so that it's like, if you try in decks, you don't get wrecked like that if you aren't completely frame perfect, but God, I hope we can. It annoys me so much. No, oh my God. Can't believe Human Torch is causing me these problems. Just from a missed dex. How the precision passes feel? Good. Yeah, they've been helping. Hey, Images, how's it going? Is it fair to assume we'll get a Rupture Immune champion in the future? I mean, we already have one, but yes, I would expect that ecosystem to continue to develop. Battlegrounds and War Mastery setup? I never change my masteries. I don't even have a setup locked to my Battlegrounds deck, Matt. So it's just what I run all the time, which is Max Despair, Max Inequity, Max Mystic Dispersion, Max Petrify, no points in Pacify, no points in Assassin. I think most of my flex points are in Deep Wounds. Do plus resistance and minus potency have a meaningful difference when it comes to dot resistances? If you mean like 100% resistance to bleed, if we have an old thing that says that versus minus 100% potency, those two statements are exactly the same. So, no. If you're talking about energy resistance versus a reduction in shock potency, yes, those are different. Those are different steps in the process. Yeah, those are different steps in the process. And so one is subject to diminishing returns, the energy resistance one, and one is not, the shock potency down one. But they also both stack. If you have 50% energy resistance and you are reducing shock potency by 50%, then you are left with an effect that is 25% of its original value. Hey, Martin, how's it going? Excuse me. Evil. I love Masacre. So good. Luke mistake again. Dumb. Oh wait, I'm using the wrong... Ooh, I really should have thrown the heavy there. I would have been able to insta-refine. My 2 light attacks counted as dashbacks. That's painful. Woof! That was not my best. Thank you so much for being a member, Red Hat. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Aiden. Looking forward to the 2 that I have. I'm dashing backwards while trying to light attack a lot today. Maybe I need to clean my screen. That's not funny, Images. That's not funny. Red Guardian, Pie Guy. The notes were in the images, or the patch notes, whatever, that thing. I swear, I have the best bleed luck in the world when it comes to Wolverine Weapon X. I feel like I never build the charges. And then I only ever get hit at the end of the, whatchamacallit, the end of the regen part. Pretty annoying. That is what it is. Yeah. Red Guardian will be next, and then Luke the following month, and then Gladiator, if I'm following things correctly, which I think I am. You know why. It was for the fired thing. I'm telling you, it's not funny. Joking is not a blanket defense against jokes like that. Like, I think that it is up to individuals to have a certain amount of awareness of how their jokes will land, and that means that certain jokes are off limits. And in this case, with all of the people like complaining about Bullseye on defense, you have to know that there's going to be an edge to the question, have they been fired yet? And then it's up to you as an intelligent adult to not make that joke. It's going to cause offense. You can't just say no offense at the end and get rid of the offense that it's going to cause. That's why I pushed back so hard. I don't think I've said this publicly on stream yet, but it's very important to note that Bullseye's designer did their job, right? Like, the team overall, several teams together, agreed that the assignment was a hard defender. They did their job. If Bullseye has to be tuned down, then that's because we decide that the assignment was a little bit off. The data suggests we make changes. It doesn't mean they did a bad job. And I really want to harp on that difference, because that difference, the fact that they completed the assignment the entire team agreed on, is why it's not even in the cards that they might be fired, and so it's why the joke just doesn't land. They did their job well. Rebalancing will decide if we want to change those results. That's very true, Aiden. I feel like I've known Images long enough to know that they're an adult, but I also could be wrong, and that is a fair call. Oh, there is a lot, JJ. And I understand some of it. There are parts of his kit I very much do not like to fight, right? There are parts of the fight that are not enjoyable in the slightest. The question is, are those things that need to be unenjoyable for him to have a certain impact on the meta as a defender? Would he be worth using as a defender? Would he be worth investing in for war and battlegrounds if he didn't have those unpleasant things? Those are very difficult counterfactuals, right? And a lot of people saying, oh, just remove this and then he'd be fine, are suggesting things that would change the answer to my question. Would he be worth investing in? To no. And that's where the line is. And so when we go through rebalancing, we're going to be basically trying to answer that question. Is Bullseye where he needs to be, exactly where he needs to be to drive investment? Or do we think that we overshot it on a couple of his mechanics and he would still be valuable with one or two things toned back a little bit? That's what we need to figure out. I understood the assignment meme. Yeah, that's basically where I'm going, Martin. Hey, Snoops. Honestly, John, I think the designer probably would have been with you on that. But defenders are kind of something that we set as a team priority. And, you know, someone has to do it, and therefore someone has to volunteer for it, right? Doesn't always work to just wait for the next one. Skill was in need of a defender. Chioth is annoying in some ways, but is not a major problem. And it's going to be a while till the next skill. That's how this kind of stuff happens. I'm glad to hear that, Images. There's a chance the data may disagree with you, but like it is nice seeing more and more people, anecdotally, who do think Bullseye is doing his job. There we go. Gorgeous. Said it when he was announced. I love and hate the never miss Easter egg, but you can't really distinguish one aspect from the other without breaking down mechanics. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, like, if we decide we need to tune him down, there are definite places to go, right? Like, the first thing that comes to mind is that the bleeds, when you dex him, could be a lower potency. That would be the easiest lever to tune. And it would still allow you to keep the thematics without it feeling quite as bad to try and bait out specials. Maybe that's what's necessary. Maybe nothing is necessary. Maybe something else. I always try and stay in it's too early to call territory here. Whoops. I tried to play looking at OBS again. I appreciate that, Images. You're forgiven. The strength of my response definitely had a fair amount to do with some fun stuff I've seen recently. Ugh, my bad. Woof. That's fair enough, Aiden. Hope you can get one of those before too long. I do like all these profile pictures. I'm sure they were relatively quick to put together, just given how similar they are, but it's a cool thing. Is there a way to refresh the repulsor debuffs? There is not, on account of the fact that they are 18 seconds long and can be very easily paused. No, it would be insane if you could refresh them. It's not that hard to upkeep 50 if that's your goal. Yeah, I honestly I've talked to Bullseye's designer about some stuff like that because I've definitely gotten my share of comments about Photon, and like it sounds funny to think about it now, but that was true for Absorbing Man too. Like the goal for him as a defender was basically to remind people that science had access to heal reversal. And some people badly needed to be reminded and were therefore very angry of the reminder. So it happens. And I'm sure that there will be plenty of choice comments aimed my way in March. So it is what it is. Oh, that's a bug, Snoops. That's actually not a bug with Bullseye. That's a bug with that Hunter Sense node that's on him here. That will be fixed. That is not an intended interaction with Bullseye. Exactly, Martin. I like White Tiger. Um, there are definitely some complexities to maximizing her, but I think she is very good. I think she is a cool take on Power Steel. Um, I like the way that she uses buffs as a mystic and is vulnerable to mystic dispersion, but also can capitalize on it by stealing power. And then I really like the way that her designer um, turned that into a good justification for the first Nullify Immune in Mystic. Because that's something that I push for personally, is some Nullify Immune in... Nah, that was done. Some Nullify Immune in every class, just because we have nodes like Power Snack and such. I think it's one of the main reasons that Gallon has felt so valuable, is because he can provide an option there where Cosmics normally couldn't. I think it's very helpful that White Tiger gave us that in Mystic. Obviously, we have like Omega Sentinel giving it to us in Tech. I think there is room for a skill champion that's fully immune to Nullify in the future, etc. Where am I going with this? But even though that is a goal that I've had and pushed for on the team for a while, I was like, I do think we should have a Mystic that is immune to Nullify. It's really cool just how perfect it is that it's specifically White Tiger that's immune to Nullify, because the buffs on her do feed into the power gain, and just everything about that is so tightly wound in a great way. If you can't tell, I have a lot of respect for her designer. There it is. Yeah, I still get comments internally about Absorbing Man, JJ. You're not alone. But I also have nothing to apologize for. Except the tuning of the nodes on him in the first EQ. That was a little much. She is indeed incredible with power back boost, Dane. But this is not an official policy, so do not take this as, oh, DLL said Kabam is doing this instead. I will find you and I will yell at you. My personal stance on characters having synergy with power backs has shifted a bit since I took the job. because it became a little bit of a meme within the design team that I would call out, this is dangerously good with power backs. And I still call it out, but in a very different light now, because I think that it is inarguable power back boosts need to be changed. They are bad for the health of the game. They are incredibly distortive. I won't go down that rant right now. Any of you who are members of my channel can go ahead and use the emoji for it. But the point is, I don't think it is on us as character designers to intentionally design around power backs anymore, because that's going to lead to too much homogeneity. You're going to have every single character only ever do their damage on like their special one or on their basics or as red numbers and never big white or yellow numbers. And that's boring in a different way. That is just that's agreeing to live in the messed up world that they've created. And so instead, I actually think it is better to have somebody like Ironheart just absolutely break power backs for tech champions again, because it is one more data point in favor of changing them. Yeah, also Viv. I know who I am, Martin. Yeah, big agree, Aiden. Like, I know I've talked about it a few times recently. I consider it fairly inarguable that Kate's damage needs to be tuned down. Um, but I don't regret the series of decisions that led to her shipping with that damage. Basically, the idea was she had either damage or utility early, and then she had both long term. And we clearly just hadn't calibrated the trade off quite right. But I still think that that is an interesting and relatively valid proposition. And so I don't regret us testing that. My only regret there is that this game is so allergic to fixing problems that now she's probably stuck that way for a bit. Sounds good, Jason. I'll see you in a sec. Has the designer for the new Summoner's Choice already been decided? I think so, because this is somewhat subject to change. Like I don't know that it's fully locked in, but I believe the way we tend to do that is that the 4 draft kits for the 4 semifinalists were all sketched out by people who did at least technically have availability during that build and therefore could follow through on them. And I believe that's true in particular for the 2 designers that did the outlines for Shathra and Black Tarantula. and so they may be on them. Which I guess actually to your point would be no, they haven't been decided because the vote hasn't been finished yet. I think it will be one of those two based on their outline, but it also could be, okay, well, here's the outline, and now they give it to somebody else and say, do what you want with it. I'm not entirely sure of the exact process there. My favorite takeout or DoorDash food? Ooh. Um, Probably Five Guys. There's a lot of good ones, but I think I'll go with Five Guys. Do you also draft the damage numbers? Yes, you do. I've actually talked a little bit about this before, Eddie, because it's kind of funny. The first time I went through the balance process on one of my characters, when there was some feedback on like this number should go up or down a little bit, my first response was kind of to push back against it because I was like, no, I like these numbers. I designed these numbers. And then thankfully, pretty quickly, I'm evolved enough to have that second thought, which is okay, but DLL, you picked these numbers by throwing things at a wall. Like, yeah, they've worked out okay in playtesting, but it's not like you did some advanced calculation to come up with these that would justify you attaching any ego at all to them. You just kind of picked numbers and they worked okay. If anything, it is a positive reflection on you that so little has to be changed and by so little. And so that is always how I try to approach the damage number conversation. Is that like, yeah, if things get changed, it's because the data says they have to get changed. It doesn't really reflect on the design because I don't think I'm alone in that. Most of us just kind of pick numbers that sound about right and then we tune them up and down during playtests based on feedback, right? And so in a lot of ways, your character needing to be tuned up or down after release, in my opinion, isn't much of a personal thing. Um, It's more just a reflection of the data. If there was a core problem in the loop for the character and that needs to be changed, again, I still don't think that that's necessarily something that you need to like flagellate yourself over. I do think that's a good source for self-reflection for you to go, okay, why didn't I catch that? How can I catch that next time? What can I learn from this? But those are the only things I think you really need to focus on there. The tuning is a team effort and comes down to data. So yes, I think the most accurate thing to possibly say is that we draft the damage numbers. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. Physical resistance, maybe? No, because critical hits get around that. I don't know, dude. I really hate the timing on his heavy. I also wish our AI tech was better, because he's supposed to be so aggressive after an evade, and sometimes he just isn't. Yeah, Five Guys burgers. They're not the prettiest burgers, but they're awful tasty, and I very much enjoy their fries. Oh, that was dumb. That's alright. When will it be my year to make the Summoner's Choice champ? No idea. Requires me not having already called dibs on 2 other characters surrounding that month, which I did this time. No, it's okay, Aiden. I don't really have an answer. I feel like I probably would leave it on crit rate. I'm assuming that's what it is by base. Did Tyler switching hats mean anything on stream? I don't know. I imagine that it meant something to him. I don't know how much it meant to the characters. I only checked, or I only caught a couple, and they didn't immediately resonate with me, but I'm also not the lore expert that Tyler is, so I could have easily just missed things. Beef Nanaritos from Halal Shack will keep me... Ooh, that does sound good. Like, I don't know the restaurant, and I haven't had the specific food, but that sounds delicious. Thanks, Hanach. I try. Everyone makes mistakes. But it matters a lot. To all of us. Anywho. I think I'm going to go ahead and call this stream, not because I'm totally burnt out. I'm taking the fact that I could go on for another hour as a very good sign for me feeling better today, but more because I can feel my voice just starting to get a little bit scratchy, and I want to be able to record that dust video today. So I'm going to call it here. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Let me real quick grab my spotlight for anyone who wants to check that out. There we go. And yeah, I would expect to be on sometime around this time tomorrow, Aiden. I may not go as long because I'm still trying to figure out. I may make some plans at 1:30, but yeah, we'll see. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.